Rachel had been staring at her laptop screen for 3 hours straight. Her eyes burned, her back ached, and little Mia was crying again from the other room. The tiny studio apartment felt even smaller tonight, with baby toys scattered across the floor and dirty dishes piling up in the sink. This was her life now, and some days she wondered how she'd ended up here. She grabbed her phone while standing up to check on Mia. The 6-month-old was teething, which meant neither of them had slept properly in weeks. Rachel picked her up, feeling that familiar weight of exhaustion and love mixed together. Mia's crying softened as soon as she was in her mother's arms. At least that part was simple. Hold the baby, and everything felt a little better. "It's okay, sweetheart. Mama's here," Rachel whispered, swaying gently back and forth. She'd become an expert at doing everything one-handed, answering emails, eating meals, even brushing her teeth. You learn fast when you're doing it alone. After Mia finally settled down, Rachel noticed she'd missed a deadline email from a client. Panic set in. She needed this job. She needed every job. The rent was due in 5 days, and she was still short by $200. Her fingers moved quickly across the phone screen, typing an apology and a promise to deliver the designs by morning. Then Mia smiled up at her. One of those big gummy smiles that made everything else disappear for a second. Rachel's heart melted. Without thinking, she snapped a photo. Mia was wearing an old onesie that had been washed so many times the colors had faded. The apartment behind them showed everything Rachel tried to hide from the world. The cracked wall paint, the secondhand furniture, the stack of unpaid bills on the counter. But Mia's smile was pure magic. Rachel wanted to send it to her college friend Mike, the only person who still checked on her regularly. She scrolled through her contacts, found the name Mike, and hit send with a message that said, "Look at this face. How am I supposed to get any work done?" She set the phone down and went back to her laptop. She had 4 designs to finish before sunrise, and Mia would be up again in a few hours wanting to be fed. Sleep wasn't really an option anymore. It hadn't been for months. 20 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Rachel glanced at it, expecting a sweet reply from Mike. Instead, she saw a name that made her stomach drop. The message wasn't from Mike Peterson, her friend from college. It was from Michael Chen, and not just any Michael Chen, the Michael Chen. The billionaire who ran TechVision Industries, one of the biggest technology companies in the country. Her hands started shaking. How did this happen? She scrolled back through her contacts and realized the horrible truth. Both names started with Mike. Both were listed under M. In her exhausted state, she'd sent a personal photo of her baby to one of the richest men in America. "No, no, no, no," she whispered, careful not to wake Mia, who had finally fallen asleep in the small crib beside her desk. Rachel's mind raced. Should she send an apology? Should she just pretend it never happened? Maybe he wouldn't even see it. Surely a billionaire had better things to do than check random messages from unknown numbers. But then she remembered that she'd met him once, years ago, at a networking event, when she was still working at a real agency. They'd exchanged contact information. She'd completely forgotten about it until this moment. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She had to say something. The silence felt worse than any apology could be. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Chen. That message was meant for someone else. Please disregard. My sincere apologies for the confusion." She hit send and immediately wanted to throw her phone across the room. Could this day get any worse? First the missed deadline, then Mia's crying fit, now this. She put her head in her hands and tried not to cry. She was too tired to cry anyway. But then something unexpected happened. 3 dots appeared on the screen. He was typing back. Rachel's heart pounded. What could he possibly say? Was he angry? Was he going to report her for harassment or something? She watched those 3 dots like they held her entire future. The message came through. "Beautiful child. Is everything okay?" She stared at those words for a full minute. Is everything okay? What kind of question was that? Of course everything wasn't okay. Nothing had been okay since the moment she saw those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, and her boyfriend walked out the door. Nothing had been okay since she lost her job for taking too much time off after Mia was born premature. Nothing had been okay since she'd burned through her savings paying medical bills and was now living in a neighborhood where she heard sirens every night. But you don't tell a billionaire any of that. You definitely don't trauma dump on someone you accidentally texted a baby picture to. Everything's fine. Thank you for asking. Again, very sorry about the confusion. She thought that would be the end of it. She'd apologize, he'd accept. They'd both move on with their very different lives. But those 3 dots appeared again. That apartment doesn't look fine. And forgive me for being direct, but I recognize exhaustion when I see it. If you need help, I have resources. Rachel felt something crack inside her chest. When was the last time someone had actually asked if she needed help? When was the last time anyone had looked close enough to see that she was drowning? Her family had cut her off when she decided to keep the baby. Her friends had slowly disappeared when she couldn't afford to go out anymore. Even Mike had stopped calling as much. She didn't know why, but she started typing. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the loneliness. Maybe it was because a complete stranger was showing more concern than anyone had in months. I'm managing. It's just been hard since Mia was born. She came early and the bills piled up. Her father left. I lost my job. But we're okay. We have a roof over our heads and food. That's more than some people have. She almost deleted it. It sounded pathetic, but her finger hit send before her brain could stop her. This time the response took longer. Rachel fed Mia, changed her diaper, and got her back to sleep. She'd almost forgotten about the conversation when her phone lit up again. No one should have to just manage, especially not with a 6-month-old. I'd like to help if you'll let me. No strings attached. Just one parent to another. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. One parent to another. She hadn't expected that. She looked at Mia sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling. She thought about the eviction notice she'd received last month that she'd managed to fight off with a payment plan. She thought about the empty refrigerator and how she'd been skipping meals so Mia could have formula. Pride was expensive. And right now, Rachel couldn't afford it. She took a deep breath and typed something she never thought she'd say to anyone, let alone a billionaire she didn't know. I don't know why you're being kind to a stranger, but yes, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. The response was immediate. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., I'll call you. We'll figure this out together. Rachel put down her phone and looked around her tiny apartment. Something had just changed. She didn't know what it was yet, but she felt it. That accidental text message had opened a door she didn't even know existed. She just hoped she wasn't making the biggest mistake of her life. Rachel didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, her mind raced with questions. What did Michael Chen want? Why would someone with billions of dollars care about her problems? Was this some kind of scam? But then again, she looked him up. He was real. His company was real. The photos online matched the professional headshot next to his contact information in her phone. At 9:45 the next morning, she was pacing her small apartment with Mia on her hip. She'd changed her shirt 3 times, which was ridiculous because this was a phone call, not a video meeting. But somehow it felt important to not be wearing the milk-stained t-shirt she'd slept in. When the phone rang at exactly 10 o'clock, her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. Hello? Rachel, this is Michael Chen. Thank you for taking my call. His voice was warm, not at all what she expected from someone who ran a tech empire. How are you this morning? Honestly? Terrified, she said, then immediately regretted being so blunt. But he laughed and it sounded genuine. I appreciate the honesty. Let me start by explaining something. I'm not calling to judge you or to make you feel worse. I'm calling because I've been where you are. Different circumstances, but I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning and nobody can see it. Rachel sat down on her worn couch, holding Mia a little tighter. What do you mean? There was a long pause. I lost my daughter 5 years ago. She was 8 months old. After that, my marriage fell apart, my life fell apart. I threw myself into work because it was the only thing that made sense. But I never dealt with any of it. And when I saw your photo last night, something shifted. Your daughter's smile reminded me of what I lost. And I realized I've been living half a life for 5 years. Rachel felt tears spring to her eyes. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. Thank you. But I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because I want you to understand that this isn't charity. This is me trying to do something that matters. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and it hasn't made me happy. But maybe helping you and Mia could mean something. What kind of help are you talking about? Rachel asked carefully. She'd learned the hard way that help always came with strings attached. I looked at your portfolio online last night. Your work is exceptional. My company is launching a new creative division, and we need a director. The position pays well. Comes with full benefits including health insurance, and we offer childcare support. I'd like to offer you the job. Rachel's mind went blank. You want to hire me? Based on what? An accidental text message? Based on your talent. I had my HR team review your portfolio blind this morning, mixed in with 10 other candidates. You ranked first. They don't know I'm calling you right now. If you accept, you'll go through the official interview process like everyone else. But I wanted to reach out personally first. It sounded too good to be true. Rachel had learned that things that sound too good to be true usually are. Why would you do this, really? Because I can, he said simply. And because I wish someone had done it for me when I was falling apart. Look, I know this sounds crazy. You don't know me. You have no reason to trust me. So here's what I propose. Come in for an interview tomorrow with my HR director. If you get the job on your own merits, great. If not, at least you tried. Fair? Rachel looked around her apartment. At the stack of bills. At Mia's crib that was starting to fall apart. At her laptop that was held together with tape. What did she have to lose? Okay, she whispered. I'll come in. Good. I'll have my assistant send you the details. And Rachel? Bring Mia. I'd like to meet her properly. The call ended and Rachel sat there in shock. She looked down at Mia, who was chewing on her fingers and drooling everywhere. What just happened, baby girl? The next day, Rachel put on the only professional outfit she still owned that fit. It was from before her pregnancy, and it was tight in places it shouldn't be, but it would have to do. She packed Mia's diaper bag like she was preparing for a military operation, and took 2 buses to get to the Tech Vision building downtown. The lobby alone was more impressive than anywhere she'd ever worked. Glass and steel everywhere, modern art on the walls, people in expensive suits rushing past with important looks on their faces. Rachel felt completely out of place, but the receptionist smiled warmly when she approached. You must be Rachel. Mr. Chen asked me to take you up personally. They rode the elevator to the 15th floor. Mia started fussing and Rachel bounced her gently, praying she wouldn't have a meltdown. But when the elevator doors opened, she saw Michael Chen standing there with a woman in a sharp business suit. He looked different in person than she'd imagined. Older, maybe in his mid-40s, with gray at his temples and kind eyes that looked tired. He smiled when he saw Mia. She's beautiful, he said softly. This must be Mia. Yes, Rachel said, suddenly feeling protective. She's usually better behaved than this. She's a baby. They're supposed to be unpredictable. He gestured to the woman beside him. This is Jennifer Park, our HR director. She'll be conducting your interview. I won't be in the room because I want this to be completely fair. Jennifer shook Rachel's hand. It's nice to meet you. We have a private room set up where Mia can play while we talk. One of our staff members is a certified child care provider and has volunteered to watch her if you're comfortable with that. Rachel wasn't comfortable leaving Mia with strangers, but she also knew she couldn't hold a baby during a job interview. She agreed reluctantly and watched as a young woman with a warm smile took Mia to a nearby room filled with toys. The interview lasted an hour. Jennifer asked tough questions about her design process, her experience managing projects, her vision for creative leadership. Rachel answered honestly, showing examples of her work on her laptop, explaining her decisions and her failures. She didn't hold back. If she was going to get this job, it would be because she earned it. When it was over, Jennifer smiled. I have to be honest with you. When Mr. Chen told me about this position, I thought he was making a mistake rushing the hiring process. But after reviewing your portfolio and talking with you today, I understand why he moved quickly. You're exactly what we need. Rachel's heart skipped. Does that mean? It means I'm recommending you for the position. The final decision will be made by the board. But that's mostly a formality. Welcome to Tech Vision, Rachel. Rachel left the building in a daze. She had a job. A real job with benefits and a salary that was 3 times what she'd made before. She wanted to cry, but Mia was sleeping against her chest and she didn't want to wake her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. How did it go? I got it. I can't believe I actually got it. I can. You earned it. Check your email when you get home. HR is sending the offer letter and some additional information. Rachel did check her email when she got home. The offer letter was there, just as Jennifer had promised. But there was another email, too, from a hospital billing department she'd been avoiding for months. The subject line made her stomach sink. Account paid in full. She opened it with shaking hands. All of Mia's medical bills, Nearly $30,000 worth had been paid by an anonymous donor through the hospital's charity program. The timing couldn't be a coincidence. Rachel immediately called Michael. "Did you pay my hospital bills?" He was quiet for a moment. "A foundation I support made a donation to the hospital's charity fund. They have a program for single parents facing medical debt. You qualified." "That's not an answer." "It's the answer I can give you. Rachel, those bills were drowning you. You couldn't move forward while carrying that weight. Now you can." Rachel didn't know whether to be grateful or angry. "I don't know how to feel about this." "Then don't feel anything yet. Just accept it and focus on your daughter. You start work in 2 weeks. That gives you time to find childcare and get settled. The company will help with that too." After they hung up, Rachel held Mia close and cried. Real tears this time, the kind that came from relief and fear and hope all mixed together. Her life was changing so fast she could barely process it. A week ago, she'd been one missed payment away from eviction. Now she had a career, health insurance, and a future. But in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered a question she couldn't shake. What did Michael Chen really want? Nobody helped strangers like this without a reason. She was grateful, but she wasn't naive. Time would tell if this was the miracle it seemed to be or if there was a price she hadn't seen yet. For now, though, she chose to hope. Because hope was something she hadn't felt in a very long time. The first 3 months at TechVision felt like living in a different world. Rachel had an actual office with a door that closed. She had a team of designers who respected her ideas. She had a paycheck that didn't disappear the same day it arrived. For the first time since Mia was born, Rachel could breathe. The company had helped her find an apartment in a safer neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but the locks worked and she didn't hear gunshots at night. Mia had her own bedroom with an actual crib, not the portable one that had been falling apart. There were parks nearby where Rachel could take her on weekends. Small things that felt like miracles. But the biggest change wasn't the money or the apartment. It was Michael. He checked in on her regularly, always professional but genuinely interested in how she was adjusting. At first, Rachel thought he was just being a good boss. But then she noticed he never asked other employees about their kids the way he asked about Mia. He remembered details, like when Mia had a doctor's appointment or when she was getting her first tooth. One afternoon, Rachel was in the break room heating up Mia's bottle when Michael walked in. He rarely came to this floor, so she was surprised to see him. "How's she doing?" he asked, nodding toward the bottle. "Growing too fast? I swear she gets bigger every day." Rachel watched the microwave timer count down. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why do you always ask about Mia? I mean, I appreciate it, but you have hundreds of employees. You don't ask them about their families like this." Michael was quiet for a moment. He poured himself coffee, taking his time with the answer. "My daughter's name was Lily. She'd be almost 6 now if she'd lived. I guess asking about Mia helps me remember what it was like to care about those little moments. The teething, the first smiles, all of it. Does that make me strange?" Rachel felt her heart squeeze. "No, it makes you human. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable." "You didn't. Actually, would it be weird if I asked to see a recent photo? You don't have to, I just..." Rachel pulled out her phone without hesitation and showed him a picture from that morning. Mia covered in mashed banana, laughing at absolutely nothing. Michael smiled. Really smiled. For the first time since she'd met him. "She's got your eyes," he said softly. After that conversation, something shifted between them. It wasn't romantic, at least not then. It was more like they'd both acknowledged the elephant in the room. Michael wasn't just her boss. He was a broken man finding pieces of himself through her daughter. And Rachel was okay with that, as long as the boundaries stayed clear. But boundaries started getting complicated. The company had a family day event in the park. Rachel almost didn't go because she didn't have anyone to go with. But her assistant convinced her that it would be good for Mia to play with other kids. So she went, expecting to feel out of place among the married couples and complete families. Michael showed up alone, too. He found Rachel sitting on a blanket while Mia tried to eat grass for the 10th time. He asked if he could join them, and she said yes. They spent the afternoon talking about everything except work. He told her about his ex-wife, how they'd blamed each other for Lily's death until there was nothing left between them but anger. She told him about Mia's father, how he'd called her selfish for keeping the baby and disappeared before she was even born. "Some people aren't built for hard things," Michael said, watching Mia crawl across the blanket. "They run when life gets real." Did you run? Rachel asked. In my own way, yes. I buried myself in work and pretended that was the same as healing. It wasn't. He looked at her then, really looked at her. But seeing you with Mia, watching you fight for her every day, it's reminding me what courage actually looks like. Rachel felt her cheeks flush. I'm not courageous. I'm just doing what I have to do. That's exactly what courage is. By the time the sun started setting, other employees had noticed that the CEO was spending the entire afternoon with Rachel and her baby. She saw the looks, heard the whispers when she walked past groups of coworkers. The next Monday, someone left an anonymous note on her desk. Nice way to climb the corporate ladder. Rachel tried to ignore it, but more comments came. Subtle things. A coworker mentioning how lucky she was to have connections in high places. Another joking about fast-track promotions. It got under her skin because part of her had worried about this from the beginning. She confronted Michael in his office, shutting the door harder than she meant to. People are talking, she said without preamble. They think I slept my way into this job. Michael looked up from his computer, surprised by her tone. What people? Does it matter? The point is, they think I didn't earn this position. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am only here because you felt sorry for me. That's not true, isn't it? Be honest with me. If I hadn't accidentally sent you that photo, would I have this job? Michael stood up and walked around his desk. Let me show you something. He pulled up a file on his computer. These are the blind review scores from your interview portfolio. The hiring committee didn't know your name, just saw your work. You scored 92 out of 100. The next highest score was 78. You were the best candidate by a significant margin. Rachel stared at the screen, reading the comments from each reviewer. Creative, innovative. Exactly what we need. Professional quality. But you still influenced the decision, she said quietly. You made sure I got an interview. Yes, I did. Because I saw your work and knew you were talented. But you earned everything after that. Every project you've delivered has exceeded expectations. Your team respects you. You're good at your job, Rachel. Stop letting other people's insecurity make you doubt that. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But the doubt had already planted itself in her mind. Over the next few weeks, Rachel pulled back. She stopped having lunch with Michael. She kept their conversations strictly professional. She even started looking for childcare that wasn't connected to the company. She needed to prove to herself and everyone else that she could stand on her own. Michael noticed. Of course he noticed. One evening, as most people were leaving for the day, he stopped by her office. Mia was in her playpen in the corner, babbling to her toys. You're avoiding me, he said. I'm maintaining professional boundaries. That's corporate speak for avoiding me. He sat down across from her desk. Look, I understand why you're doing this, but you're punishing both of us for what other people think. And more importantly, you're pulling away from Mia, too. Rachel's head snapped up. What? She looks for me now. Did you know that? When I come to this floor, she watches the door until she sees me. Last week I came by and you rushed out with an excuse. She cried. I heard her from the hallway. Guilt crashed over Rachel. She hadn't thought about how this was affecting Mia. Her daughter had started to bond with Michael, reaching for him whenever he was around, giggling at his terrible attempts to make baby sounds. She'd been so focused on what people thought that she hadn't considered what Mia needed. I'm not trying to replace anyone, Michael said quietly. I'm not trying to be her father or cross any lines with you, but that little girl has brought light back into my life, and I hope I've been a positive presence in hers. Can't we just be what we are? Friends who care about each other? Rachel felt tears building. I'm scared. I'm scared that if I let you get too close, you'll leave. Everyone leaves eventually. And Mia's already attached to you. What happens when you get bored of playing house with someone else's family? I'm not going anywhere. He said it with such certainty that she almost believed him. Rachel, I've spent 5 years in the dark. You and Mia didn't just help me, you saved me. I'm not walking away from that. From you. The way he said you made her breath catch. This was the moment she'd been avoiding. The moment when friendship became something more complicated. Something she wasn't sure she was ready for. I need time, she whispered. I need to figure out what this is without the pressure of everyone watching. Then take all the time you need. I'll be here. He stood up and walked to the door but paused before leaving. For what it's worth, you're the strongest person I've ever met. And you deserve someone who sees that. After he left, Rachel picked up Mia and held her close. Her daughter grabbed her face with chubby little hands, smiling like everything was simple. Maybe it could be simple. Maybe she was making it complicated because she'd forgotten how to trust. But learning to trust again felt like the scariest thing she'd ever done. Even scarier than being a single mother. Even scarier than starting over. Because this time she wasn't just risking her own heart. She was risking Mia's too. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning. Rachel woke up to Mia crying differently than usual. Not the hungry cry or the tired cry. This was something else. Something that made every maternal instinct scream that something was wrong. When she picked up her daughter, Mia's skin felt like fire. The thermometer read 104 degrees. Rachel's hands shook as she called the pediatrician, who told her to get to the emergency room immediately. She grabbed the diaper bag with one hand and Mia with the other, not even bothering to change out of her pajamas. The Uber ride to the hospital felt like it took hours, even though it was only 12 minutes. Mia was lethargic, barely responding, and Rachel kept talking to her the whole way, begging her to stay awake. "Come on, baby. Stay with Mama, we're almost there. Just stay with me." The emergency room was chaos. Sick people everywhere, crying children, the smell of antiseptic and fear. But when the nurse saw Mia's temperature and her unresponsive state, they took her back immediately. Rachel followed, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The next few hours were a blur of tests and questions and doctors with concerned faces. They admitted Mia right away. The words they used were terrifying: infection, blood work, possibly bacterial. They started an IV and Rachel had to hold her daughter down while she screamed. It was the worst sound she'd ever heard. By evening, they had a diagnosis. Mia had a severe bacterial infection that had gotten into her bloodstream. It was rare, the doctor said, but treatable if caught early. They'd caught it early. But she needed to stay in the hospital for at least a week, maybe longer, on strong antibiotics. Rachel sat in the chair next to Mia's hospital crib, watching her daughter sleep fitfully with tubes and wires attached to her tiny body. She hadn't eaten all day, hadn't called work, hadn't thought about anything except the possibility of losing the only good thing in her life. Her phone had 17 missed calls. Most were from work, but 3 were from Michael. She'd forgotten to tell anyone where she was. With shaking fingers, she texted him, "Mia's in the hospital. Bad infection. I can't talk right now." Her phone rang immediately. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Which hospital?" Michael's voice was tight with worry. "St. Catherine's, but you don't need to come. I just wanted you to know why I'm not at work. I'm already in my car. I'll be there in 20 minutes. "Michael, you don't have to. I'm coming." He hung up before she could argue. Rachel looked down at her pajama pants and oversized t-shirt, at her hair that she hadn't brushed, at her face that she knew was puffy from crying. She didn't have the energy to care. True to his word, Michael arrived 20 minutes later. He found Rachel's room and stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene. His face went pale when he saw Mia hooked up to all the machines. "How is she?" he asked quietly, coming to stand beside Rachel. "They say she'll be okay, but she has to stay here for a week at least. The antibiotics have to run through an IV because the infection is in her blood." Rachel's voice cracked. "She's so small. She looks even smaller in that big hospital crib." Michael pulled up another chair and sat down next to her. He didn't say anything for a long time, just sat there watching Mia breathe. Finally, he spoke. "When Lily was in the hospital right before we lost her, I remember thinking that the machines were louder than her heartbeat. That scared me more than anything else. But Mia's strong. Look at her fighting." Rachel turned to him. "You don't have to stay. I know you have important things to do. There's nothing more important than this." He met her eyes. "Then you two." Over the next 3 days, Michael came to the hospital every day after work. Sometimes he'd bring food because Rachel kept forgetting to eat. Sometimes he'd just sit with her in silence. Once, when Rachel finally agreed to take a shower in the hospital bathroom, he stayed with Mia, and when Rachel came back, he was reading a children's book to her even though she was asleep. "She can still hear you. You know," a nurse said, smiling at them. "And she's lucky to have such devoted parents. You can see how much you both love her." Neither Rachel nor Michael corrected her. It felt easier not to explain. And maybe part of Rachel didn't want to correct her because it felt nice, just for a moment, to pretend they were a normal family going through a crisis together. On the 4th day, the doctor came in with news. Mia was responding well to the antibiotics, but they wanted to keep her a few more days to be safe. Then he mentioned the bill. Even with Rachel's insurance, the costs were astronomical. The specialized antibiotics alone were thousands of dollars. Rachel felt her stomach drop. "I'll figure it out," she said, even though she had no idea how. After the doctor left, Michael stood up. "I'll be right back." He was gone for 20 minutes. When he came back, he sat down and took Rachel's hand. "The bill is handled." "What?" "No, Michael, you can't. It's already done. I spoke with billing. Everything is covered." Rachel pulled her hand away. "I can't let you do this. This is too much. The job was one thing, but this is too much." "Why? Why is it too much?" His voice rose slightly and Mia stirred in her sleep. He lowered his voice. "I have money sitting in accounts that I'll never use. Money that doesn't mean anything to me. But keeping Mia healthy? Making sure you don't drown in medical debt? That means something. That matters." "I can't be someone's charity case forever," Rachel said, tears streaming down her face. "Don't you understand? Every time you save me, I feel weaker. I need to know I can take care of my daughter on my own. You are taking care of her. You're the one who recognized something was wrong. You're the one who got her here in time. You're the one who's been by her side for 4 days straight. I'm just helping with the money part, and money is the one thing that doesn't make me weak. Let me be useful, Rachel, please." There was something desperate in his voice, something raw. Rachel realized that he needed this as much as she needed his help. Maybe more. "Why are you really doing this?" she whispered. "Tell me the truth." Michael looked at Mia, then back at Rachel. "Because when Lily died, I had all the money in the world and it couldn't save her. I've spent 5 years feeling helpless and useless. But with you and Mia, I can help. I can make a difference. You're giving me purpose again. Don't take that away from me." Rachel saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't about pity or charity. This was about a broken man trying to heal by helping others. And maybe she'd been so focused on her own pride that she hadn't seen how much he needed them too. "Okay," she said finally, "but you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll talk to someone. A therapist. Because us, whatever this is becoming, it can't be healthy if you're just using us to avoid dealing with your grief." Michael was quiet for a long moment. "You're right. I've been avoiding it for 5 years. I'll make an appointment tomorrow. Thank you." That night, after the nurses had dimmed the lights and the hospital settled into its nighttime rhythm, Michael was still there. He'd pulled his chair closer to Rachel's and their shoulders were touching. Mia was sleeping peacefully, her fever finally broken, her color returning to normal. "I don't know what this is," Rachel said softly. "What we are to each other. Does it need a label right now? I guess not. But Michael, I need you to know something. I'm scared. I'm scared of depending on you. I'm scared of Mia getting attached and you leaving. I'm scared of my own feelings because I don't trust them anymore." He turned to look at her. "I'm scared too. I'm scared I'll let you down. I'm scared I'll mess this up like I messed up everything else. But I'm more scared of walking away and regretting it for the rest of my life." In that quiet hospital room, with only the soft beeping of monitors and the sound of Mia's breathing, something shifted between them. Not love, not yet. But the beginning of something that could become love if they were brave enough to let it. Rachel leaned her head on Michael's shoulder and he didn't pull away. They sat like that until morning, two broken people finding comfort in each other's presence, held together by a little girl who'd accidentally brought them into each other's lives. When the sun came up and Mia opened her eyes and smiled at them both, Rachel thought maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. All three of them. 6 months after Mia's hospital stay, Rachel barely recognized her own life. She'd been promoted to senior creative director. Her team had just won an award for a campaign she'd designed. Mia was thriving, hitting all her milestones and then some. The apartment Rachel had once thought was too good to be true now felt like home, with Mia's artwork covering the refrigerator and toys scattered in every corner. But the biggest change wasn't any of those things. It was Michael. True to his word, he'd started therapy the week after Mia got out of the hospital. He talked about it sometimes, carefully, sharing what he was learning about grief and guilt. Rachel watched him slowly transform from someone who carried his pain like a weight to someone who was learning to live with it. And somewhere along the way, their friendship had deepened into something neither of them could ignore anymore. It happened in small moments. Michael showing up at Rachel's apartment with dinner after a long workday. Rachel texting him photos of Mia doing something cute. The way his hand would brush hers and linger just a second too long. The way she'd catch him looking at her with an expression that made her heart race. But they were both careful. Maybe too careful. Neither wanted to rush into something that could ruin what they'd built. Neither wanted to risk Mia getting hurt if things didn't work out. One Saturday afternoon, Rachel took Mia to the park. It was one of those perfect autumn days with leaves falling and the air crisp but not cold. Mia was toddling now, taking shaky steps and falling on her padded bottom every few feet. Rachel followed behind her, laughing at her daughter's determination. "She's going to be running by next month at this rate," a voice said behind her. Rachel turned to see Michael standing there with 2 coffee cups. He wasn't supposed to be here. This was her time with Mia. Separate from work, separate from everything else. "What are you doing here?" she asked, not unkindly. "I was nearby and thought you might want coffee, but I can go if you want your space." Rachel looked at him standing there, uncertain, holding out coffee like a peace offering. She realized she didn't want him to go. She hadn't wanted him to go for a while now. "Stay," she said. "Please." They sat on a bench while Mia played in the sandbox, getting dirt absolutely everywhere. Michael told her about a charity event his company was hosting, and Rachel told him about Mia's new obsession with pointing at everything and saying, "Dat?" over and over. "Can I ask you something?" Michael said after a comfortable silence. "And you can tell me if I'm out of line." "Okay. Are we ever going to talk about this?" "About us?" Rachel's breath caught. "I didn't know there was an US to talk about." "Come on, Rachel. We're not just friends. We haven't been for a while. And I've been patient because I know you need time, but I need to know if I'm waiting for something that's never going to happen." She watched Mia throw sand in the air and giggle. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Of all of it. Of this not working. Of this working too well and then falling apart. Of Mia getting her heart broken. Of mine getting broken. I'm terrified too. But I'm more terrified of looking back in 5 years and regretting that I never told you how I feel." "How do you feel?" Michael turned to face her fully. "I'm in love with you. I'm in love with your daughter. I'm in love with the life we could have together. And I know the timing is complicated and the circumstances are unusual, but I don't care. I want to be with you. Really be with you. Not as your boss or your friend or someone who just happens to be around. As your partner." Rachel felt tears spring to her eyes. She'd been waiting to hear those words and dreading them at the same time, because once they were out there, she had to decide. She had to choose between safety and possibility. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have for months. But Michael, if we do this, if we really do this and it doesn't work out, I lose everything. My job, my home, my security. And more importantly, Mia loses you. Then we make sure it works out. We go slow. We keep work and personal life separate as much as we can. We put Mia first in every decision. We communicate even when it's hard. We don't give up when things get difficult." He took her hand. "I'm not him, Rachel. I'm not the guy who walked away. I'm the guy who's going to stay." She wanted to believe him so badly it hurt, but trust was still the hardest thing. "I need you to promise me something," Rachel said. "Promise me that if you ever feel like this is too much, if you ever want to walk away, you'll tell me first. You'll give us a chance to fix it before you disappear. I promise. But I need you to promise me something too. Promise me you'll let me in completely. Not halfway, not with one foot out the door. All the way." Rachel looked at Mia, who had abandoned the sandbox and was toddling toward them with sand in her hair and joy on her face. She thought about the accidental text message that had started all of this. How one small mistake had changed everything. How the wrong number had been exactly the right number. "Okay," she said. "Let's do this. Let's be together." Michael's smile was brighter than she'd ever seen it. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't want to. Their first kiss was soft and tentative and felt like coming home. "Dat," Mia said, pointing at them kissing. Then she laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. They both laughed too, and Michael picked Mia up, sand and all. "That's right, little one. Your mama and I are together now. What do you think about that?" Mia grabbed his face with both sandy hands and planted a wet baby kiss on his cheek. That seemed like approval enough. The next few months weren't perfect. They had their first fight about work boundaries. They had awkward moments figuring out how to be a couple in front of colleagues. They had hard conversations about the future and what it looked like. But they also had movie nights with Mia falling asleep between them. They had lazy Sunday mornings making pancakes. They had moments of pure happiness that Rachel had thought she'd never experience. 8 months after their conversation in the park, Michael asked Rachel to marry him. Not with a grand gesture or a public proposal. He asked her at home with Mia asleep in the next room after a perfectly ordinary Wednesday. "I want to do this right," he said, getting down on one knee. "I want to marry you. I want to adopt Mia if you'll let me. I want to build a family with you. Not because I'm trying to replace what I lost, but because I want to build something new. Something ours." Rachel said yes before he could finish. She said yes to the life they could have. Yes to the family they'd become. Yes to the man who'd seen her at her lowest and loved her anyway. The wedding was small. Just close friends and Michael's therapist who'd become someone important in their lives. Mia was the flower girl at almost 2 years old, throwing petals with chaotic enthusiasm. Rachel wore a simple white dress and Michael cried during his vows. "A year and a half ago I got a text message by accident," he said. "A photo of a baby I didn't know from a woman I barely remembered meeting. I could have ignored it. I should have ignored it. But something made me respond. And that decision saved my life." He turned to Mia, who was trying to eat the flowers. "Thank you for bringing your mama into my life. I promise to be the father you deserve. I promise to show up, to stay, to love you both unconditionally." Then he turned back to Rachel. "You taught me that healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about making room for new joy alongside old pain. You taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about choice. And I choose you. Every day I choose you." Rachel could barely get through her own vows without crying. She talked about second chances and wrong numbers and how sometimes the best things in life come from accidents. She talked about learning to trust again, to hope again, to love again. After the ceremony, they took one photo that Michael insisted on framing. It was the three of them together, Mia in the middle, all of them laughing at something silly she'd done. Next to it, Michael hung the original photo that had started everything. Mia at 6 months old in her worn onesie, smiling despite the cramped apartment behind her. "That's where we started," Michael said, looking at both photos side by side. "Look how far we've come." Rachel leaned against him, watching Mia play with the flower petals scattered across the floor. She thought about how close she'd come to not sending that text, how one small moment of exhaustion and carelessness had led to all of this. Sometimes the wrong number is exactly right. Sometimes accidents are actually miracles in disguise. Sometimes the help you're too proud to ask for comes from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, if you're brave enough to accept it, one mistake can change everything. Michael started a foundation called Second Chances, helping single parents who were struggling the way Rachel once had. They funded childcare, paid medical bills, created job opportunities. Every person they helped, Michael would tell Rachel, was another family getting their own accidental miracle. Years later, when Mia asked how her parents met, they told her the truth. About the wrong text message. About the hospital bills and the job offer. About how sometimes the scariest decisions lead to the best outcomes. "So I brought you together," Mia asked, proud of herself. "You absolutely did," Rachel said, hugging her daughter close. Michael smiled. "Best accident that ever happened to me." And Rachel, who'd spent so long believing she had to do everything alone, finally understood that asking for help wasn't weakness. That accepting love wasn't giving up independence. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone in. She looked at Michael and Mia, her accidentally perfect family, and knew without a doubt that some wrong numbers are destiny in disguise.